In the last 5 years, Northwest Arkansas has exploded in population, becoming the 18th fastest growing metro in the United States.
But with so much growth in such a little period of time, is it still worth it?
Now, we've had hundreds of people come to this area, and we've gathered the top 5 reasons to move to Northwest Arkansas in 2025.
Number one that kind of defines the area is recreation. So we're known as the natural state, and that's because there's so much to do in the outdoors, from lakes, rivers, mountain biking. They've spent millions of dollars into mountain biking and trail infrastructure here in Northwest Arkansas. So a lot of people, that's really the foundation of why they would even consider this area in the first place.
Northwest Arkansas is known as the mountain biking capital of the world and has over 250 miles worth of biking trails just in this area.
We have easy access to Beaver Lake, which has all the room you could ever need for boating, for fishing. There's also a lot of smaller lakes all through Bella Vista, and then in Rogers, you have Lake at Atlanta. All that to say, there's a lot of water. So anything you want to do water related on lakes or on rivers, it's right at your fingertips.
Now, besides being outdoors, there's a few of us shoppers out there. And so we have the Pinnacle Hills Promenade, which is actually, well, it started just as like a regular mall, but we've already gotten things like the Lego store in there now. There's a small interactive aquarium for kids and adults alike. You're finding a lot more developments like this that are happening in this area. And in fact, we also have a Bass Pro Shop here as well.
There's a lot of money being poured into the area to make sure that it stays competitive with other quickly growing metros.
Oh, guys, we can't forget about Topgolf. We don't even have the population for a Topgolf, but they still put one here.
They're looking for the future.
Here in Northwest Arkansas, one of the other main drivers for this area is the jobs.
We have several industry titans, like, of course, Walmart headquarters is here, but we also have Tyson and J.B. Hunt. So this lays a really good foundation for those executive level jobs and kind of is the foundation for the economy in Northwest Arkansas.
You're gonna have jobs that sprawl from those executive lines, like, for instance, new innovations that are happening in this area because we are the capital of Walmart. And what that looks like in layman terms is we have some Walmarts that will literally fly drones full of groceries to your house.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Pea Ridge, Arkansas, which is like kind of a smaller town here in Northwest Arkansas, was the first area to get drone delivery. So they built a whole facility out and these drones lower it down from the drone and deliver to these people. It's kind of interesting, but you see a lot of this Walmart innovation taking place, and that actually opens up a lot of other jobs for these third-party vendors to be able to supply and find their experimental job positions with Walmart.
Especially when you're making a whole new, almost way of industry in just this area, those salaries are also gonna be fairly competitive because there's not much else like it. And that is just the tip of the spear on why this area stays relevant, especially being in a robust economy like they are.
You also have the University of Arkansas, which is a large-scale economy, and so that brings in a lot of students and a lot of industries that form around that student body.
And one of the things that kind of helps bolster that student body is just the relationship Arkansas has with some of the surrounding economies. And the state I have in mind in particular is Texas, because they're allowing in-state tuition prices to be across the board for Texans and people that are actually residents of Arkansas to allow that robust growth to continue to happen.
So we're seeing a large migration of Texas students choosing to actually reside in Northwest Arkansas. So not only is there a really strong job market, but it's actually relatively affordable compared to the rest of the United States. One study that I read said we're 10% to 20% better than some of these other cities, just in the overall cost of living. So that's housing, that's the affordabilities of things like groceries and gas and school and taxes. All of those things add up to make the area much more affordable.
And something to consider on specifically the home ownership side is because this is an up and coming area, we still qualify for what's called a rural development loan. And that's a loan where you don't have to put any money down, you don't have to take money to closing, and you are able to get into a home for these select areas that are designated for that rural growth. Now, as we expand, those will start to go away, but that is one of the key ways to get people into a home where other areas of the nation they just can't do that.
Impossible. Well, it's pretty funny because we'll have rural development loans for houses that are 15 minutes from a really solid town. Like even places like in Rogers and downtown Bentonville, you don't have to go far out to actually qualify for that kind of loan. And that's kind of a testament for the fact that the area is still being discovered and still expanding really quickly.
One of the other things to talk about here in Northwest Arkansas is the taxes, right? We have a lot of changes in home values. They reassess about every 4 years, but the positive light that I like to look at is we actually have millage rates, which is how they determine how they're going to have taxes collected, going down. They're down in Washington County and Benton.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, you don't usually hear of taxes going down, but Benton County is proposing the same so that they don't have too much of a surplus, but they want to make sure they maintain the amount of taxes to enable this area to continue growing so we don't have as many potholes show up on our roads.
Yeah, but they're trying to keep the area as affordable as it can, even with the crazy amounts of growth that's taking place.
Northwest Arkansas is famous for having a really strong community. Now, realistically, what does that look like? I think it leads back to our nonprofits, communities, and the culture the area is cultivating.
I love to see all of the events that they do that really foster strong families and also tie together a lot of different demographics. So I think of things like First Friday, where in some of the, especially in downtown Bentonville, you're coming together every single first Friday of the month, and it's a free event. So they have food, vendors, music. And so what it sees is a lot of business people, especially, really getting tied into the community and focusing on giving back.
Now, it's also good to see that our nonprofits are helping support this local area. And one that comes to mind is called CASA. And what that does is it helps local Arkansas kids find a foster home or find a way to reunite with their family for specifically kids here just in Arkansas. And that's reinvestment of this community is a consistent thing you see.
We also have a lot of festivals like the Bentonville Film Festival or the Fayetteville Roots Festivals that bring a lot of people into the area. And I noticed a lot of arts events too. So things like arts and crafts where these local artisans are able to actually share their works with the local community. But again, these events are open to families. And so it's nice knowing that on any given month, your family's gonna have a lot to do.
And if you're looking for something more low-key to do, the farmers markets in this areas are very, very strong. Almost every city has their own unique farmer market.
they're great.
And they do have specific local farmers and vendors to this area that's very easy to walk through and be able to support your local providers.
You're getting local honeys, local jams, local yams. Did they sell yams?
Probably.
The fifth reason of why we hear people are moving into this area is actually for the area's future potential. We're the 18th fastest growing metro in all of the United States, and so a lot of people are trying to get in prior to that big boom that's projected to take place.
Now, we have multiple different reasons and multiple different outlets of growth. And so a few of those to kind of dive into is, first off, our population. We are adding so many people. We're nearly doubling in size.
It's about 16,000 people per year coming into the area.
Basically a small city.
Yeah.
And so when you have so many people bumping into each other, being able to have commerce, you're gonna have just more opportunity from the get-go.
And on top of that, we're seeing a ton of businesses come in that are really trying to innovate and move into the spaces. We've got big players like Walmart that we already talked about, Walmart Tyson, but we also have players like Amazon coming in, and then a lot of smaller entrepreneurs who are seeing the ripe ground to be able to start their businesses and bring their startups here.
In fact, one of those stories is a gentleman I know that's working with a chain of grocery stores around here. I won't name which, but they're going through and helping replace most of the infrastructure for the wires laid for internet. And that's a contract that's going to last for years because his company could provide that kind of service.
There's also a ton of new infrastructure coming into the area. Things like the Alice Walton School of Medicine that's already breaking ground, ready to be built, and that's slated out for completion. That's going to bring a lot of higher education, especially within the medical industry. Then you have things like the Blue Crane Group buying up massive swaths of land in Bella Vista, and so we're going to see, could that be a resort? Could it be a town center? There's so much money being targeted into this area that in the next 25 years, it's really gonna be exploding.
In fact, this area is changing so much, we made a video on just that. So if you'd like to check out the changes that are coming to this area to allow 1 million people to be here, go ahead and check out our next video. But thanks for tuning in and we'll see y'all later.